I photograph a lot of organizations that are windows into cultures that I'm not part of. Much of the work that I do is for nonprofits. The other half, photography, which I do just for my own enjoyment, are things like what's hanging in the library. Had a vision for what I wanted down at Rodeo Beach at sunset and got there and found it was all fogged in, but the sun came out for a glorious minute and a half, which is just enough time for me to take the shot. There's so many ways to share photography as art, and to have the library have that recognition that we are artists and that we've got images that other people will be interested in sharing is meaningful to us. We're all extraordinarily appreciative of the Marin Library giving us this opportunity to share our work within the community.
My father had PTSD and mental health issues, and was not an easy person. But I knew he loved me. I'm gonna get choked up. My father was special. He didn't even like artists, but he liked that I made things because I was also mechanically inclined, and he liked that. And so I've done a book that I wrote that's called Me and My Dad, and all the illustrations are like this long and they're folded up. And it's just a few words, and then you open up this picture of something I did with my father. And the viewpoint that I had as a little kid looking up to my dad and out into the world is a lot of the kinds of pictures that I make, because I try and do things that have personal meaning, and the things that have personal meaning, not only personal meaning, but that I don't have photographs of, that I'm drawing completely from my mind.
I think the most important thing is to figure out ways that you can express what's inside you, what you need, what you want to get out to the world. I mean, you could do endless selfies all day, and that's maybe it'll prove to someone that you're cute or handsome, but it's important to express what's important to you. And it's really good if you can express yourself in a way where it gets out on various media like books or magazines. You get followers on the internet so that your voice is being heard. That's really important. It's deeply satisfying, and you could actually possibly do some good.
One of my teachers said, paint a lot with your left hand if you're right-handed. And gosh, that is really hard. And you end up with something that maybe just looks like a kid's drawing, but it really does. You look at parts of it and you think, I couldn't do that with my right hand, I believe. But value in unlearning some of the tricks that you trot out every time you paint. And I'm certainly good at that. I can do repetitive brushstrokes all day long. I used to have a studio in my house, especially when I was raising kids, and I'd find that I have to vacuum my way to the studio just to follow your own path. It's okay to be influenced, come up with its own thing, whether or not it sells, whether or not it looks good next to an abstract. I also think that having a painting on your wall, the painting will speak to you. When it starts speaking to you, then it's like your friend.
I was just fortunate to be at a very unique event. There were many activities to choose from, but one of the presenters was a Dutch artist, and he makes clouds in indoor spaces. That was kind of one of the main attractions, was to see this, to see how he made the clouds. He's made clouds in the Vatican and museums and things all over the world. And so, because the cloud only lasts for a few seconds, it's the photographer who preserves the moment. Digital photography is a process. I mean, I don't always end up with a good outcome, but I love the process. So I think art is a way of looking at life. I think it's a part of everyday life. It shows us a way to look.
For me, it's a creative outlet and a way to, capture the way I see the world. It gives me an opportunity to slow down, absorb more, study things at times, depending on the subject that I'm interested in. So it allows me to focus on, small details and really look around a scene. At first cursory glance, you might see one set of input, if you like, but then the longer you look and you look around, you might see other things there that are even more appealing than what you first went to take an image of. The hidden joy, if you like, of discovering the other things that are there.
So for whatever reason, birds speak to me, specifically birds that seem crow or raven-like. When I moved into my home, they used to hang out on the lawn. When my father passed away, they showed up, and I swear it was a message from him. And so they've always been very symbolic. And I was studying at College Marin at the time and taking a painting class, and we were exploring portraiture, and I was interested in how does what you learn about portraiture with humans, how does that apply to animal? And I think anyone who's lived with a pet knows that many of them communicate just in very can feel like very human-like ways. I just like the Queen for the Day as a title because, I often have conversation with friends about all there is to do in a day and how do you take those moments and feel special. And so it was just, the little crown was a way of making that bird feel just a little bit more special maybe in that moment. So it was just, mostly for fun and joy.
For me, being an artist is really like a way of moving through the world. I think because I'm a painter, I find that I'm able to see the world more clearly and appreciate all of the nuances and beauty and the way that rain falls in a puddle. Or I think being an artist really slows down my life and makes it a lot more contemplative. And it makes me more aware of the world and more grateful for it. It's something that I do to really process and show appreciation for everything, the beauty that I witness in the world. I think sharing the work is then a way to give other people access to this way of moving through the world that adds so much value and beauty to my life. I think that this program is so incredible. When I heard about it, I was like, wow, that's exactly the kind of thing I want to be doing. I'm always looking for ways to make what I'm doing feel accessible. I don't want it to be only a thing that is seen as an investment for really wealthy people.
I probably can't remember when I really didn't feel like I was an artist, just because it's a way of seeing things. It's a way of, I guess it starts even with nature, but not just nature. You look at something like a tree, which is one of my favorite things to paint, and you get something like somebody looking at a painting, but if you try to reflect that, and so it becomes something else. It's never ever what it was when you first looked at it, and I guess that's a process that you go through. If they look at an abstract, they might not necessarily be inspired because they don't quite know what it is. Whereas if they would look at something more realistic, it can get them thinking in a certain way that they might be able to reproduce it. I think the thing about, which I think is terrific about the libraries, I think having them have art available in more, like libraries, is perfect. In more public places.
Everybody's got an artist bone somewhere in them. I find so important in our culture is to try to carry the arts forward in practice for the adult population as well as the child population. That's a transitional age, junior high. Half the class would say, I used to be able to do this, and they would get frustrated with what they were doing, being self-critical. And I think that's the thing that triggers in most people that causes them to shut down their artistic bone. That coupled with we don't really have an environment that promotes and supports creators everywhere. What we do have is an environment that strongly promotes audience participation. I'm the audience, the other is the artist, and so many people regard themselves as the audience and not the maker, not the creative. So I feel blessed to understand that no matter what my talent level might be, I am a creator, and so I do create.